Now part 2, Candrakīrti's perspective in Mādhyamika Avtara. Candrakīrti's argument in the 6th chapter contains two broad sections. One deals with the question of the essencelessness of all phenomena. The other deals with essencelessness of person. Having dealt with the two themes, the author concludes the chapter by giving the classification of emptiness. Section 1, Essencelessness of all phenomena. This section can be understood as the author's commentary on Nagarjuna's main thesis in the first chapter of Mādhyamika Karika, namely Pratitya Parisha. Nagarjuna argued there, the phenomena neither arise from themselves, nor from others, nor from both, nor without a cause. Nagarjuna in that verse rejects four alternatives. Candrakīrti in the present text elaborates on each rejection generally by referring to different rival schools of Indian philosophy. Let us make a brief survey of Candrakīrti's arguments. Alternative 1, arising from itself, intrinsic causality. This alternative refers to the identity between cause and effect. Satkaryavada of the Sankhya system matches with this view. Candrakīrti in the verses chapter 6 stanza 9 to 13 refutes this view. He argues that the identity between cause and effect implies that, for example, seed and sprout are identical. This is inconsistent with the fact that the shape, color, taste, potential, and ripening of sprout are different from those of the seed. Candrakīrti further argues that even worldly people do not accept the identity of seed and sprout because they see the result after the cause ceases. Therefore, imputation of arising of things from identical causes is irrational from the ultimate as well as conventional point of view. Alternative 2, arising from something else, extrinsic causality. In Buddhist context, the view that an effect is different from the cause was held by the two realist schools of Buddhism, namely Vaibhashika and Sautantrika, and also by the mind-only school of Buddhism. Here, Candrakīrti first refutes the causal theory of the realist Buddhist schools, verses chapter 6, stanza number 14 to 34, and then refutes the mind-only school in a detailed way, verses chapter number 6, stanza number 35 to 97. Realist Buddhist schools hold that cause is essentially different from the effect. In that case, Candrakīrti argues, even a rice sprout can arise from a barley seed, as they are different. Candrakīrti considers two options in this context. Cause and effect are not simultaneous, and that they are simultaneous, and argues that cause-effect relation between them cannot be established in both the cases. The distinction between conventional and ultimate point of view. Candrakīrti argues that the view that the effect is different from the cause is not acceptable from neither of them. Candrakīrti then turns to mind-only school of Buddhism. Though this school holds that there are no external objects and hence does not accept cause-effect relation among external objects, but it accepts foundation consciousness, alaya vigyayana, as the causal basis and carrier of karma. Candrakīrti holds that karma can give result without the mediation of the so-called foundation consciousness. Mind-only school regards objects of consciousness as unreal and consciousness as ultimately real. Candrakīrti argues that conventionally both the consciousness and its objects are real, but ultimately both are empty. Alternative number 3, arising from both itself and the other. Candrakīrti does not refer to any particular school which accepts this position. However, one can consider here Jainism as a representative of this view. Jainas say that the effect is produced through the combination of both identical and different causes. Against this alternative, Candrakīrti in chapter 6, stanza 98 says, arising from both is also irrational because of having the faults already mentioned for both. If one accepts that cause and effect are identical, then all the faults described from stanza number 8 to stanza number 13 would occur. If one accepts cause and effect are different, then all the faults described from stanza number 14 to stanza number 22, etc. would occur. If they are regarded as both identical and different, then all the faults described in the stanza 8 to 22 would occur. Alternative number 4, arising without a cause. Candrakīrti here refers to the approach of Charvakas, according to which different things occur not according to any cause but according to nature, swabhava. As they say, sun rising, falling down of stream, round shape of pea, twist and sharpness of thorn and colorfulness of peacock feather are not made by anyone, but they emerge from nature. Against this, Candrakīrti argues that if something is produced without cause, then anything and everything can arise any time without a cause. Secondly, if things arise without a cause, then it will be meaningless for the people to arrange a seed in order to obtain sprout as its results. Moreover, Candrakīrti argues, if things arise without a cause, then the sensory perception of odor and color of a lotus will not be possible, because a perception of an object is possible because it is caused by the object. Section 2. Essencelessness of person. The second section of the 6th chapter starts with the stanza number 120. It deals with the selflessness of person in various ways. Having made a general statement in chapter 6 of stanza number 120, he discusses various dimensions of the theme. This second section can be divided in various subsections as follows. Chapter 6, stanza number 121 to 125. Refutation of the self accepted by non-Buddhist schools. The non-Buddhist religious schools regard the self to be eternal and unborn, an unborn entity. Candrakīrti argues is like son of a barren woman. Stanza 126 to 141. Refutation of the realist Buddhist view that self is identical with aegis. The view of Mādhyamika, as Buddhists hold that there is no establishment of self other than aegis. But does it mean that there is soul and it is identical with aegis? Here, Candrakīrti refers to the views of the Mādhyamika, a school of Buddhism. Some members of the school hold that all the aegis together constitute the self, whereas others hold that the aggregate of consciousness is the self. Candrakīrti refutes both the views. Stanza 142 to 145. Refutation of different relations among aggregates and self. Candrakīrti denies identity as well as difference between aggregates and the self. He rejects the relation of container and content as well as the relation of endowment between them. Stanza 146 to 150. Refutation of Vatsiputriya's view that the self is inexpressible. Vatsiputriya, a subsection of Mādhyamika school, says that it is necessary to accept the self as the agent of karma and experiencer of the result of the karma. The self, that is Pudgala, however, is inexpressible because it is neither identical with nor different from aggregates. Candrakīrti points out inconsistency in this view. If self is real and substantial, it cannot be inexpressible. Stanza number 151 to 167. Self and aggregates compared with a chariot and its parts. Candrakīrti then discusses this whole idea of no self by referring to the metaphor of the chariot. Stanzas 168 to 178. Finally, having reasserted the interdependence between cause and effect, Candrakīrti answers the opponent's objection that the Mādhyamika's refutation is self-refuting. Now let us discuss the concluding part. Part Varieties of Emptiness. In the concluded section of the chapter, Candrakīrti refers to varieties of emptiness. He gives a 16-fold as well as a 4-fold classification. The 16 types of emptiness are: number 1, internal emptiness; number 2, external emptiness; number 3, emptiness of both internal and external; number 4, emptiness of emptiness; number 5, great emptiness; number 6, ultimate emptiness; number 7, emptiness of compounded phenomena; number 8, emptiness of uncompounded phenomena; number 9, emptiness from extremes; number 10, emptiness of beginningless and endless; number 11, emptiness of no abandonment; number 12, natural emptiness; number 13, emptiness of all phenomena; number 14, emptiness of one's characteristic; number 15, non-perceivable emptiness; and number 16, emptiness of non-being. The 4-fold emptiness consists of: number 1, emptiness of being; number 2, emptiness of non-being; number 3, emptiness of self-nature; and number 4, emptiness of other nature. Thanks for being with us. Hope you have understood the topic well. Thank you very much.